Before the Tran Dynasty, there was the Ly Dynasty. In Vietnamese history, the Tran Dynasty lasted for 175 years, whereas the Ly Dynasty endured for 216 years. The Ly period was marked by many enlightened rulers, and it was particularly known for the flourishing of Buddhism within the royal court. The kings and officials were devout Buddhists, and it was entirely normal at the time for the Grand Chancellor to also be a monk or even a Zen master. In this context, a remarkable figure named Ngo Tuan emerged. He was believed to be a distant descendant of Ngo Quyen. Ngo Tuan was tall, handsome, and strong, much like Pham Ngu Lao, but even more imposing, standing at around 1.8 meters. In ancient times, such a height was considered extraordinary. He was a man of both literary and martial talents, and by the age of 22, he had already been appointed to a minor official position at the village level, overseeing a small military unit of about 6 soldiers. During this period, the Song dynasty constantly harbored ambitions of invading Jai Viet. Ngo Tuan pondered deeply on how to advance his career in the bureaucracy, seeking a path to meet the king and serve the court at a higher level. He did not want to remain a low-ranking village official indefinitely, waiting endlessly for the district magistrate to pass away before getting a chance for promotion. The path from district official to provincial official, and from the province to the central court, seemed too long and uncertain. Therefore, like Pham Ngu Lao, Ngo Tuan sought a way to serve directly at the royal court. However, during this period of the Ly Dynasty, there was a noticeable lack of talented generals, leaving the military without an outstanding commander. Given this situation, instead of following the conventional path to becoming a general, Ngo Tuan conceived a daring plan to approach the king directly. However, this was an extremely risky move. Any misstep could lead to accusations of attempting regicide, which carried the severe punishment of extermination of 3 generations of one's family. Thus, at the age of 22, Ngo Tuan became a eunuch and entered the palace. With his towering height, striking appearance, and exceptional skills in both literature and martial arts, he quickly earned the king's trust. After 3 years of service, the king was deeply impressed by his talents. He consistently won martial arts competitions within the palace. In literature, none could rival him, and most notably, his strategies for military formations and tactics surpassed even the most seasoned civil and military officials. Thanks to these extraordinary abilities, within just 3 years, he was promoted from a eunuch to an official in the royal court. By the age of 32, he had risen to become the highest-ranking official in the kingdom, second only to the king, superior to all others. At this very moment, the king granted him a new name, changing Ngo Tuan to Ly Thuong Kiet, a general whose name remains recorded in history books, with streets bearing his name still found in many places today. It could be said that Ly Thuong Kiet's method of applying for a government position was far more extreme than that of Pham Ngu Lao. While Pham Ngu Lao merely impaled his own thigh with a spear to demonstrate his resolve, Ly Thuong Kiet's sacrifice was many times greater. Once he became the supreme commander of the military, Ly Thuong Kiet refused to simply sit and wait for the Song army to invade. He realized that remaining on constant guard, unsure of when the enemy would attack, was a passive and exhausting strategy. Instead, he proposed a bold and proactive approach. Why should we wait for them to strike us? Attacking them first would be far more advantageous. Either way, civilians will suffer casualties, but if the war takes place on enemy territory, it will be their people who perish. If it happens on our land, it will be ours who suffer. With this offensive mindset, he assembled and trained his army, then launched an attack on the Song dynasty's Ung Chau fortress. In just 40 days, his forces razed Ung Chau to the ground, a stronghold located approximately 1,200 kilometers from Thang Long, a former capital of Vietnam. To get a sense of this distance, imagine a flight from Hanoi to Guangzhou today. What makes this even more impressive is that the army of that time had to travel entirely by land. After his victory, Ly Thuong Kiet withdrew his forces back to Jai Viet. As expected, the Song dynasty was furious over this unexpected attack. They spent the next 3 years assembling a massive 300,000-strong army in preparation for an invasion of Jai Viet. Faced with this situation, the king asked Ly Thuong Kiet, "This time should we attack them first or wait for them to attack us?" Unlike before, this time Ly Thuong Kiet responded, "This time we wait for them to attack us." Surprised, the king asked, "Why is it different from last time? 3 years ago we attacked them. Why do we wait?" Ly Thuong Kiet provided a profound explanation. In 3 years they have only managed to gather 300,000 troops, which means their army is an untrained rabble. The farther an undisciplined army marches, the more exhausted it becomes. The more exhausted they are, the more their morale deteriorates. Once their morale is broken, all it takes is a single decisive battle to defeat them. Just as he predicted, when the Song army reached the Như Nguyệt River, Ly Thuong Kiet was ready. He deployed a stake defense strategy beneath the river, recreating the same tactic used by Ngo Quyen in the historic Battle of Bac Giang River, which was fitting as he was believed to be a descendant of the Ngo family. After exactly 2 weeks of battle, the Song army was completely forced to retreat. From that moment on, the Song dynasty never dared to invade Vietnam again. Merely hearing the names Vietnam and Ly Thuong Kiet was enough to deter them from any further attempts. It is fascinating to consider the meaning of his name. Thuong means persistent, enduring, while Kiet means exceptional, outstanding. Indeed, he lived a remarkably long life, passing away at the age of 90, perhaps partly due to his status as a eunuch, which may have slowed his aging process. Throughout his lifetime, he served as the kingdom's top general under 4 Ly Dynasty kings, a rare accomplishment, as most rulers had much shorter lifespans than he did. The Ly Tran period is regarded as the golden age of Vietnam, during which the military won every battle they fought. The Ly Dynasty alone successfully repelled the Song army twice. During the decades that Ly Thuong Kiet commanded the army, the Song dynasty never again dared to invade Jai Viet. This ensured a period of peace, allowing the nation to prosper, its people to thrive, and its strength to solidify, laying the foundation for a powerful and resilient dynasty that endured for over 200 years. When the Song army invaded for the second time and both sides faced each other on the banks of the Như Nguyệt River, Ly Thuong Kiet employed a unique tactic to boost the morale of both his soldiers and the entire people. As the two forces arrayed themselves opposite one another, he took advantage of the temples perched on the islets in the river. At midnight, he ordered a recitation of a poem, a highly effective psychological maneuver to lift the spirits of the troops and the populace. The Emperor of the South reigns over mountains and rivers of the South, as it stands written forever in the Book of Heaven. How is it then that you strangers dare to invade our land? Your army shall be shamed and beaten. He had the poem recited intermittently through the night, abruptly pausing before resuming its recitation the following night. Essentially, this was an exceedingly sophisticated psychological tactic, almost like a form of neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, designed to influence the mindset of both sides. With just one simple, succinct poem, he reprogrammed the spirit of his people and soldiers, without the need for complex dialogues or elaborate preparations. The effectiveness of this strategy was truly remarkable. For our troops, already buoyed by previous victories, the resonant verses echoing from the temple further bolstered their unwavering confidence. Meanwhile, the enemy soldiers, upon hearing these lines, felt disoriented and fearful. In the end, after only 2 weeks of fighting, the Song army was completely defeated. It can be said that Ly Thuong Kiet was a master of psychological warfare, perhaps even the founding father of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, in Vietnamese history. It is unfortunate that these techniques were lost for a long time before being rediscovered and developed by Western psychologists, and now we find ourselves learning from them once again. When we look at the life and career of Ly Thuong Kiet, we cannot help but admire his extraordinary resilience and unparalleled determination. His intellect was far superior to others, and his moral character was equally worthy of respect. He embodied the 3 essential elements of mastery: ethics, perseverance, wisdom. The fundamental qualities of an exceptional individual. The story of Ly Thuong Kiet can also serve as an inspiration for modern couples. If a husband is striving to build his career, his wife might encourage him by saying, "Go ahead and pursue your dreams with confidence. Learn from the spirit of Ly Thuong Kiet. I believe in you." Of course, there is no need to follow every aspect of his life literally, but his spirit, perseverance, and wisdom are values that we can all learn from and take pride in.